How's that for ending, huh? Big time returns when it comes to the WWE. It has been a very big weekend for the World Wrestling Entertainment, coming off of Evolution, that I think from every metric, whether it's box office wise, show quality wise, was a big success. Felt good for the women to go out there and were able to showcase what they were able to do on a big time platform. But coming into Monday Night Raw tonight, there was a lot of different questions, right? We're on the road to SummerSlam, which is going to be the first ever two-night SummerSlam. So you knew that something big was going to happen because, as you guys know, they're kind of trying to make this the summer version of WrestleMania. So whether it was tonight, Friday, or next week, we were all pretty much on Roman Reigns watch, right? We've been on Roman Reigns watch ever since WrestleMania, and tonight was the night that we got the return of the OTC. The original tribal chief won. He made his grand return. The guy decided to clock in and come to work. Gotta be nice, right? Make 10 times more than the rest of the roster and have to work 10 times less than the rest of the roster. Nobody has it made better than the tribal chief. So the way that things were shaping up, it looked as if we're building towards Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns. Obviously, they have that history dating back all the way to the Shield. And now with the Paul Heyman connection, it was the natural fit. But what this injury with Seth Rollins kind of threw a monkey wrench in all of this, right? So it's going to be interesting to see with this impending return of Roman Reigns, what direction that they were going to go. And now it looks as if things have gotten a lot clearer as to where we're going to go. The way it's looking like we're going to get possibly a tag team match with Jey Uso and Roman Reigns versus Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker, which I'm all for, right? It's good to see the young guys have the opportunity to be in a match with Roman Reigns because obviously him being involved with anything is going to get major eyes towards the product. But tonight, you can call it Ladies Night Part 2. This show was predominantly dominated, especially from the first hour, by the ladies. Based off of what went down on Evolution, you knew that they were going to be the focal point of this episode, but it was pretty much the ladies and the Braun Breaker show. We have Naomi come out, open up the show, gets a big reaction, and before we get the crowd revving this thing up, giving the "you deserve it" chat, she cuts them off and she says, "You weren't feeling the glow, and now you're feeling this now." And she goes on to talk about how what was obvious to majority of the people was it looked as if, and what made the most sense, that she was going to go after Tiffany Stratton's title. But that's not what went down. She went over and got Rhea's title because she said that you can't expect the unexpected, and she's always going to do the predictable thing. And she goes on to call out the women's locker room and says, "You have basically better recognize there's a new sheriff in town. Naomi has moved over from SmackDown to Raw." She's interrupted by Rhea Ripley, and Rhea Ripley comes out and she says, I had two goals coming into Evolution. And that was to finally beat Io Sky, and that was to regain my women's championship. And because of you, I wasn't able to accomplish that. And there are still two goals that I haven't been able to reach. Then we have Io Sky come out. Your voice. Then you have Io Sky come out, and she says, respectfully, Rhea, I need to get my title back. And she challenges Naomi. We have Adam Pearce come out, and he says, this is SummerSlam that's coming up. The first ever two-night SummerSlam. We need big box office. We need this big-time match. And I'm going to make it a triple threat for the women's title. Now, I think just based off of the matches that have been announced so far, right? Cody Rhodes versus John Cena. We got Gunther. Well, going to get into that later on. But Jelly Roll in the tag team match. From an in-ring standpoint, I am the most excited for the women's match that just got announced to open up the show because I feel like these are the individuals who are going to be able to deliver the best match quality, right? Obviously, Cena versus Rhodes is probably from a name standpoint the biggest match, but I think quality-wise, we're going to be able to see these women deliver something really special. Next, we get a Judgment Day Clubhouse segment. Guys, please remember to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't. Hitting the like button helps the channel out in more ways than you even know. And hitting the subscribe button helps the channel out in more ways than you even know as well. It's a big night, man. The return of Roman Reigns has people excited. I know that I'm excited. It's a big, big deal, right? But we get this Judgment Day Clubhouse segment where you see Finn cleaning up all the belts. Obviously, the Judgment Day are dripped in gold after what went down at Evolution, where Roxanne Perez and Raquel were able to sit there and retain the championships. He goes on to tell Dom, he's like, we need to look out for the ladies. You should escort them for their match. And you have Dom question him, why would I need to escort them for their match? And he says, because we got to make sure that we can keep these tag titles for Liv, right? He's like, let's do it for Liv. Then you see Dominic, reluctantly say for Liv. And as he walks out, you see Finn Balor repeat for Liv. But he has this evil shit-eating grin on his face. So you know that Finn Balor is pulling some strings in the back to make some things go down. And as soon as Liv comes back, and it's going to be a big-time return, things are going to be already set up and made for her. I think that what we could possibly get, and I think that this would be, if I was the guy who was in Triple H's position, I would have Liv Morgan return at the Royal Rumble. I would have one of the Judgment Day, particularly Roxanne Perez, have the championship, and we set up a match between Roxanne Perez and Liv Morgan at WrestleMania for the title. I think that they have plenty of time to book Roxanne to be in a strong enough position where it would make sense for her the title. Liv Morgan, she's already been putting in a lot of work within the last 2 years to where she's up there in the upper echelon of the women's division. So from a storyline perspective, I think it makes all the sense in the world. And I think match quality-wise, it would be good as well. Guys, please remember to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't. It helps the channel out in more ways than you even know, and it's free. So we get into the tag team match that was set up after this. It was the Kabuki Warriors versus Roxanne and Raquel. And Raquel has really been on a nice little run these last couple of weeks. Kevin Nash on his podcast, don't know how many of you guys watch it, he was talking about how, Raquel is this large individual. And she says, you need to work bigger, right? Obviously, the comparison that Roxanne gets all the time is Diesel, because of her connection with Liv Morgan, the bigger individual with the smaller individual. So to get these words from the OG Diesel to the new Diesel, I think was very well. The way that she was able to take it and spin it to a positive, and it really looks as if she's been taking that advice that Kevin Nash has been able to give her, because she's really been able to showcase her dominance and really throw her weight around, right? And the way that we were able to see this match, the dynamics between her and Roxanne every week, every single time that they're able to tag team more, you see a lot more chemistry brewing between the two. They were able to retain their championships against the Kabuki Warriors. Asuka's always good to see her. Kyrie Sane, it's got to be rough on Kyrie Sane's mental, right? Think about this. Kyrie Sane was involved recently in a match that we saw Zoe Starks get injured, and she was involved in that match with Liv Morgan where she got injured for her freak accident. So, mentally, it's probably still in her to where it's like, man, I've gotten 2 people in the last couple of matches that have hurt. So it's probably still weighing on her mental every time that she goes into the ring, crossing her fingers, don't let somebody get hurt, right? Even if it may not be her fault, because, wrestling is this really strange business where it's like anytime you step into the ropes, there's a possibility of injury. Mentally, it still has to weigh on her, right? Then we get the next Paul Heyman segment. Paul Heyman, he's there. He's hyping up because the main event of the show is going to be this gauntlet. We have Bron Breakker in it. We have LA Knight in it. We have CM Punk in it. Jey Uso. All these individuals going into it. Who's that texting my phone? Robin Lundberg texting my phone. Do you guys know who Robin Lundberg is? Me and Robin, we like this. So Paul Heyman, he's giving us an update. He's interviewed by Jackie Redmond, and Jackie Redmond is asking him about Seth Rollins. In this segment, there was a lot of questions surrounding, what was going to go down now with the briefcase and with all these things that were setting up between Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns as to what was going to happen now that he's injured. And this segment was very well done, and it answered all the questions that everybody had, right? So Paul Heyman was asked about what the update on Seth Rollins, and he says, there is no update, there is no timetable, but Seth Rollins has up until June to where he can cash in this Money in the Bank. So until we're approaching that deadline, there's nothing really to worry about. What that does is not only does it's basically a 2-for-1, right? Because the pop that he's going to get, anytime we see Money in the Bank cash in, it's already a big pop. But now what this sets up is not only are we going to get a cash in, right? But we're going to get the return of Seth Rollins at the exact same time we get the cash in. So it's going to sit there and create an even bigger pop because we're going to get that surprise of the return of Seth and the cash in. So I think that that was great. I think that it's really going to have this monkey wrench is going to be thrown in to the product due to the fact that we don't know when we're going to see Seth back. This injury that he has gotten, it's kind of been, shrouded in mystery because the way it looked to me was he got injured in the match. But what the reports are saying is he was injured prior to the match, and they just wanted to create an angle to where he'd be written off TV. So we don't know how severe this is. We don't know if this is a 6 to 9 month injury. We don't know if this is a 6 to 9 week injury. We don't know if this is a 4 to 5 month injury. So the fact that this is shrouded in mystery, and we have the 2-for-1 opportunity where we can get this even bigger pop when the Money in the Bank cash in, I think is some good shit, right? Guys, please remember, hit the like button and subscribe. It helps the channel out in more ways than you even know. But you guys, I'm doing all the talking. What do you guys think about the show? What did you guys think coming out of the show? Are you excited that Roman Reigns is back? Did you enjoy Evolution? Are you excited now that Naomi is on Raw and she is able to be the women's tag team champion? So many belts clouded up my mind. Also, what did you guys think was the best show this weekend? Because you guys know it was a marathon weekend, right? We had NXT Great American Bash. We had AEW All In, which was a freaking brutal watch. Not because of the show, but just how long it was. And then we had Evolution yesterday. So just let me know, what do you guys think was the best show of the weekend? I'm going to go with All In, slightly just due to the fact that, this culmination of the Hangman Page story was just so well done that, But Evolution was a kick-ass show as well. It was a lot of good wrestling. Next, we get a backstage segment where Jackie Redmond is interviewing Lyra Valkyria. We have a 2 out of 3 falls match between Bayley and Lyra, who is going to set up the opponent for Becky Lynch at SummerSlam. I thought going into this match, the obvious choice would be Lyra because Lyra is the one who's on the come up in this situation. Becky Lynch is already a made woman. She's accomplished so much. Bayley, she's accomplished so much as well. So the program that they've had that involved Lyra, I think, has really been beneficial for her to not only be able to work with, 2 ladies who are made women, but it puts her in a situation where she's elevated just due to the fact that how associated she is with these people, right? So we have Jackie. She's asking Lyra, she's like, is this match with you and Bayley, is this personal? The things that have gone between you guys, is this personal? And Lyra, she's, no, it's not personal. I'm just trying to go and chase the belt, the belt that I've lost. And you have Bayley coming in and interrupting this interview. She says, Lyra, the difference between me and you is, you want this, title. I need this title. And then you have Lyra, tell Bayley, basically the fact that, you're a narcissist. It's always all about you. So we get into this match. I'm not really too big of a fan of these, 2 out of 3 falls matches because usually the way it goes, and we saw it today in this match, where it's like somebody gets a quick pin automatically, and then the other person gets a quick pin automatically, and then that's when we get to the real match, right? For me, pinfall should be sacred. Maybe this is just, me nitpicking, me being a picky wrestling fan because you know how fickle we are. But that's what we got, right? We saw Bayley roll up Lyra early, and we see Lyra hit her in the corner hard in a moment on the steps, which was very painful to see, right? Then we see Lyra be able to pick up a cradle win off of Bayley, and this is where the match really started hitting its stride, right? These 2 ladies went all out. This is probably the best match of the night, in my opinion. Lyra and Bayley were able to do what they do best, and it's been a lot of elite women's grabs within the last 48 hours, right? Evolution was really good. Tonight with this match, a lot of elite famous female grabs, right? We see Lyra pick up the win at the end, setting up a rematch with Becky Lynch. We have Becky Lynch come out, draped in yellow and red. We all know who is associated with those 2 colors, none other than the immortal Hulk Hogan. That's a little troll for the internet fans who call her Becky Hogan now. So I thought that was a nice touch. I love a good troll. But I like this match. obviously, when we head into SummerSlam, I think the obvious choice is to have Lyra win. I think the whole point of this program was to elevate Lyra, and that would be the cherry on the sundae of this build that they've had for the Bird Lady. What did you guys think? You guys excited for that match? Out of all the matches that we have set up so far, what is the match that you guys are most excited for heading into SummerSlam? I think I'm most excited for the women's match, the triple threat for the world title. Roman Reigns returns. Anytime we can get the tribal chief, it's good. Roman Reigns, one thing about him, everybody has their taste, of who they think is the best wrestler. Some people say it's like Seth Rollins. Other people say it's like, Will Ospreay or Kenny Omega or Randy Orton. But, one thing that Roman Reigns has over those guys is the way that he's able to command the pace and the way that he's able, just with his facial expressions. I feel like there's nobody in the industry right now that is better at storytelling than Roman Reigns. And the fact that he has maybe 5, 6 matches tops throughout the year, and he's able to just come back in after several months, layoff, and show people why he's, in the position that he's in to make all this money. I think it's a testament to how great the guy is, right? Please don't say I'm glazing. Guys, please remember, hit the like button and subscribe. It helps the channel out in more ways than you even know, and it's free. We are getting closer and closer to 3,000. When I first, just to divert for a second, when I first started this channel, I remember my goal was 100 people to sub. So the fact that we're closing in on 3,000 just a little bit over a year after I started, it's some crazy shit. Next, we get Nikki Bella and Chelsea Green. Nikki Bella was brought back in for the Evolution PLE. Obviously, what we were getting was going to be Liv Morgan versus Nikki Bella. That kind of, went to the shitter after Liv Morgan got hurt. So we saw her in the Evolution Battle Royal, but we have her sticking around a little bit more. But before we got to this match, we had a Jackie Redmond interview of Stephanie McCure, who is becoming, on a weekly basis, my favorite wrestler in all of WWE. She was, interviewed about, winning the Battle Royal. Obviously, she's going to have a world title match at Clash of Paris. And she was interrupted by Chelsea Green. And Chelsea Green was saying, you're going to be representing, in Paris. I think I should be representing in Paris. And you have Stephanie McCure say, if you think you should be representing in Paris, why don't we go to the ring and figure it out? She says, I'd love to, but I got a match with a Hall of Famer. So you can look, but you can't touch. We have Nikki Bella versus Chelsea Green, which I think is the perfect opponent for Nikki Bella. Because just from the character work that Chelsea Green has been able to do, I think that it meshes very well with what Nikki is able to do, especially in this point of her career, right? This is a solid match. I think that this was Nikki's first match on Raw in 7 years. Even Nikki in her prime, she was never, known as this great workhorse, but she was able to come in. She was able to get certain spots done that we are, routinely able to see her do, that we know her for. We saw this spot where for the majority of a good portion of the match, she was teasing a neck injury. As you guys know, she has this history of neck injuries dating back to why that's what forced her to take this long hiatus from wrestling. Nikki Bella, she was gaining momentum, but we had the secret Hervis interfere in this match, but Nikki Bella was able to pick up the win. But after the match, the Secret Hervis, they gave her a wicked case of the beats. But Stephanie McCure came out and made the save. So we're possibly maybe getting this tag team match set up for SummerSlam. You would do why would they do that to their viewers? I don't know. The Secret Hervis, Nikki Bella, Stephanie McCure. Good stuff. Next, we get a segment that really, really made me laugh. I don't know about you guys, and it feels like across all of professional wrestling these days, everybody who's bald is getting shamed for being bald. John Cena, Ricochet, Adam Pearce. You can't be a bald man in the professional wrestling industry and have it not thrown in your face when arguably the biggest star of all time in the professional wrestling business was a bald man, Steve Austin. But we have this segment with the New Day. They have this silver platter with a silver lid on top of it. They present it to Adam Pearce, and they open it up, and it's some hair. They said this is human hair. This is hard to get, trying to bribe Adam Pearce. And they're basically trying to finagle their way into getting a rematch for their tag titles. And Adam Pearce tells them, he said, you didn't give any rematches for the tag titles. So why should you get a rematch for the tag titles? But next week, you're going to be able to have an opportunity to gain a shot at the tag titles. The Judgment Day are in the background. You see Adam Pearce stop Dominic Mysterio because Dominic Mysterio was able to get involved in the tag team match earlier in the night. And you see Adam Pearce saying, you look very spry out there. You look like you had a lot of mobility. And you see Dominic Mysterio saying, it's the adrenaline in my soul. It says, next week you're going to be reevaluated again. And if the doctors are able to clear you, I am going to book you versus AJ Styles as fast as I possibly can. You see AJ Styles in the corner praying that Dominic is cleared, and then you see Dominic praying that he's not cleared. It was some good stuff. Comedy and wrestling isn't bad all the time. I know there's some people who don't want any type of comedy in professional wrestling. For me, I don't think it's bad. Sporadically used, it could be effective. That's just mean. Bald people have feelings. They do have feelings, but they don't have hair. Next, we get a segment from the world champion Gunther coming off of his big-time win against Bill Goldberg. I remember heading into that match. That match started around around 9:30. And I remember they was starting to already do the entrances, and I was chatting with my boy Robin Lumberg. And I was like, there's no way that this match is going to go as long as this, right? There's no way this match is going to be that freaking long because obviously Bill Goldberg is known for 3-4 minute matches tops, right? So we had a 14-minute match from Bill Goldberg. You know what I find so funny? The bar is so low for a Goldberg match in-ring wise that he goes out there and he has a okay match and people act as if this was Okada versus Omega in the Tokyo Dome. The guy had an okay match and people, flipped their shit in celebration. But you had Gunther come out and he goes on to talk about, him retiring Bill Goldberg. And he says, you know what? The question now is who's next? Obviously coining the phrase from Goldberg. And you have Bron Breakker come out with Paul Heyman. And this is where things started to get good, right? Paul Heyman is about to do his intro. You see Gunther. He says, I know who you are. I don't really have time to hear this. And then he sits there and he's trying to walk off to leave. But you have Bron Breakker stand in his way. And I don't know about you guys. I'm a big Bron Breakker guy. I love everything that he does. But that's tan that the guy has. It is so distracting. Like, the tanning abuse in the professional wrestling business needs to be investigated because the guy looks like a penny out there. No human being should be that brown if it's not natural. Like, it's just insane, right? So you have Paul Heyman hyping up Bron Breakker with all these different things, and he starts going through the Rolodex of nicknames that he's had over the years, right? He calls Bron Breakker the next big thing. He calls him, the big dog. He says this is his yard now. He's just really hyping up Bron Breakker, and then he goes on to remind people of the fact that he is a Steiner, right? So at SummerSlam, he is going to break Gunther's ass in half. Pause. Big time pause. And that's the way that we set up this gauntlet match for the main event. I love this gauntlet match. I thought it was great. If the design was to have Bron Breakker come across as strong as you possibly can, they accomplished that. And the goal to do that, they passed it with flying colors. Bron Breakker looked like a fucking machine this whole entire match. Now, once CM Punk was involved, I pretty much knew that Bron wasn't going to win. But they were able to showcase him and make him look as strong as he possibly can, right? He started off the match with Penta, obviously a guy that he has been wrestling multiple times throughout Penta's, debut into the WWE. So they had this built-in chemistry already. They were able to put on a really solid performance like they always do when they're able to hook up into the ring. Bron Breakker hit him with the nasty spear. Then we had LA Knight come in. LA Knight, Bron Breakker, two guys who haven't been able to have a match like that, but it was very solid. LA Knight is somebody who's always very much so a fan favorite. I thought that the way that they were able to kind of protect LA Knight in this position where you had Bron Breakker rake the eyes, and then you had him hit him with a spear. 1, 2, 3. Knight was up out of there. Then we see the Yeet Man, Jey Uso, coming in. Jey Uso obviously is the fan favorite that everybody loves. Very divisive online. It's either you love the guy or you can't stand the guy. Me, personally indifferent. Not that big of a deal to me. But we see them also two opponents who've been able to work multiple times throughout the last several months. Guys, please remember to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't. It helps the channel out in more ways than you even know. And always remember that it's free. But you see Jey Uso at a point where he's gaining momentum, but you see Big Bronson Reed interfere. When Jey Uso was on the top rope, you had Bronson Reed drag on his arm. Bron Breakker hits him with the spear. Yeet Man up out of there. Then we see none other than the Pepsi Man, CM Punk. And you knew that CM Punk was going to be the last guy to come in, the biggest star in the match. Plus, he's the oldest guy in the match. He came in. He was on fire. Momentum was on his side because Bron Breakker had to go through all these different individuals before we got to this point. I thought that they did a solid, performance when they were able to work together. It was only a brief 10 minutes. Bron Breakker, he was going to set up CM Punk for a tsunami, right? Because Bronson Reed was in there. He was interfering. They're going to set up a double tsunami. But you had Jey Uso come in there and make the save. CM Punk was about to eat a spear, but he put the knee up. He gave he gave Bron Breakker a GTS. 1, 2, 3. We were heading towards a match with Gunther versus CM Punk for the world title at SummerSlam. From a marquee standpoint, I think that it's a very big match. I think from a match quality standpoint, CM Punk, what he lacks in athleticism these days, he makes up for in his storytelling ability. So I think that the promos that we're going to get leading up to the match, I think is going to be very solid. I think I'm excited for it. I think that if there's going to be a point where you're going to see CM Punk win the championship at MetLife Stadium with this 2-night version of SummerSlam, I think that's a perfect opportunity for him to do it if they want to pull that trigger, right? So we get a beatdown segment, but we get none other than the OTC, our tribal chief, the man that has been the face of the WWE, pretty much for the last decade, probably before Cody Rhodes' arrival. He cleans house. He gets his massive ovation. Gets this massive ovation from the crowd. He sits there, and we get this picture where you have Jey Uso in one corner and CM Punk in the other, and you have Roman Reigns reach his hand out, and he pulls his cousin up, Jey Uso, leaves CM Punk alone. Pepsi Phil should lose. I don't know. Tough call, right? Because if you want to have the young guys win, but I feel like it's not if, it's a when we're going to see CM Punk as the world champion. So it's not like it's inevitable, but Roman Reigns makes the save, and you have the crowd going ape shit. They are chanting Roman Reigns, and it looks like now we're going to get that tag team match. We're going to have Jey Uso and Roman Reigns versus Bronson Reed and Bron Breakker, right? Obviously, the plan looked as if we're going to have Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns with his injury. You kind of have to make do with what you got. But I'm not that upset with it. Anytime we can see Roman Reigns, I think it's a good thing, right? So I'm not upset with it. This was a very, very solid Raw, especially due to the fact that it was ladies' night with all the women's wrestling. WWE, they get this reputation sometimes that it's entertainment first, and wrestling, takes the back seat. And a lot of times that criticism is valid. But tonight, and with the women's roster being so good and stacked that it is, they were really able to bring in the in-ring work and be able to put in a good show. If that's what you prioritize when it comes to professional wrestling. I know that a lot of people have different tastes. Some people prefer, the promos and the entertainment factor over the wrestling. Other people it's reverse. But I feel like you got a good mix tonight of both. And it was a very solid show. What do you guys think? Did you enjoy the show? Gunther should keep the belt. The rumor has it that Gunther is going to be John Cena's last opponent, in December, which could possibly mean a couple of different things. I think if that's the case, that means that a John Cena face turn is imminent because he has less than 20 dates ahead of him on his schedule. And I think that could possibly mean that John Cena is going to be in a world championship match. So that could possibly mean that Gunther is going to keep this title till December. So there's a bunch of different balls in the air and a bunch of different routes that they could go. Give me a wrestling show anytime. Well, if you want a lot of graps, I'm going to be here for the Dynamite post show on Wednesday. So if you prioritize the graps, you're going to get it on there, right? So, but guys, it's been a long night. I'm going to head out. Please remember, hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't. It helps the channel out in more ways than you even know. This was your Monday Night Raw Fast Count post show. Be back immediately following Dynamite for your Dynamite post show. Every week, Raw post shows, Dynamite post shows. Every week you'll get it. And you'll always get post shows after all the AEW pay-per-views and the WWE PLEs. I will have you guys straight for all those things. And always remember, you can comment anytime you want. This is an open forum. This is an open discussion for all of us wrestling fans to discuss what we like. So don't ever hesitate and be afraid. But guys, see you on Wednesday. I am Kevin Zwicker. I'm out.